Thanks for tuning in. I'm an IB teacher and curriculum coordinator, and today I'm going to talk to you about the PYP Exhibition, which is the culminating experience of the primary years program. The questions that we're going to be asking today are, number one, what will the students be doing throughout this process? What is the overall purpose? How is the exhibition different? How is it assessed? And what are the roles of the students, teachers, and guardians in this process? So to give you an understanding of what the students are going to be going through, I'm going to take you through a flash exhibition right here, right now. So first step is we need to think about what is something that we are interested in, an interest or an issue that we want to explore further. So for example, students might be interested in music or money, or let's be honest, gaming. Very common that many students do this, especially at this age. And so this is really important that they choose their own interest or issue, because this is a massive source of motivation for them. And again, the topic that they choose is not necessarily the focus of this experience. It is about the process. So we try to support students in the choice that they make about what they want to learn. Okay, so the next step is we ask the students what questions they have about their interest or issue. And they might come up with things like, why are games so fun? How are games made? Why do my parents hate it so much when I play them? What can I learn about life from games? And what's the worst thing that can happen if I only play video games for 18 hours a day? This helps the students to think about the different possibilities and to show them that any topic can be connected and can branch out in many different ways. We'll try and help the students to focus in on some things, but this is where the journey starts. Next, we might ask, where can you find information to help you answer your questions? This is where the students' journeys branch off into many, many different pathways. And we want them to explore and look through all of these different pathways so that they have a better understanding of this topic and so that they can choose how they are going to specialize later on in the exhibition. So here it's very important for the kids to have access to many different resources, and this is something that they might struggle with. So this is where we as teachers and parents and guardians can help. A big role that teachers and guardians play is helping the students to figure out what is a credible source. So we will look through the things with them and help the students to decide, okay, does this information that I found, is it backed up by some kind of academic organization or another kind of organization where peer review is important? Our next step is to ask students, what did you learn from your research? And in our example, perhaps students might have learned about marketing or self-motivation through gamification. Perhaps they learned about brain chemistry and the science of habit formation. Maybe they wanted to make their game, so they did a little bit of programming, or they learned about psychology. These things can all come from one very simple interest that they have chosen themselves. And the fact that they chose it themselves really helps them to see that, something that I like can be a pathway into many different fields where I can perhaps have more of an impact on the world, which is our very next step. Action. Action is the most important part of the PYPX, and it is where the students take what they have learned and they try to bring it into the real world. All right, so in our example, perhaps the student might want to start to create some artistic designs for a game that they want to create in the future. Or maybe they want to make a plan to gamify their entire life using the strategies that they learned from psychology and self-motivation and the science of habit formation to gamify their life so that they find more success in the things that they want to do. There's endless possibilities. Students can use art, students can use performing arts, students can use literacy, math, design, anything to help them to express their learning through an action. Sometimes they might even reach out into the community and try to have an impact that way. Then we ask the students, now that you've got all this information and you've taken this wonderful action, you need to share this awesome thing that you've done with your community. And students might choose different ways of doing this. They might want to make a model, something physical, so that people can touch it and use it and see how it works. They might want to make a presentation and stand up in front of people and give a speech. Maybe they're a little bit shy, and so they'd rather just make a video and show that video when people come around to their space in the exhibition. Or they might want to make a lesson plan where they give activities or something that people can do, so it helps them learn about the students' learning journey throughout the exhibition. And lastly, because this is a process, we really ask the students, what reflections might you have after this process is complete? Or what is next? It is an inquiry cycle, which means it starts again. This process is so powerful because once internalized, it really empowers students to become lifelong independent learners. And so we asked them, you've gone through this whole process, it was very in-depth, but how can you take it further? So there is your flash PYP exhibition. I hope this helps you to understand what the students will go through. As I said before, it's such an amazing process that students can repeat over and over again throughout their life to be independent, action-driven learners. And we really hope that this experience helps to internalize this process into the students' minds. So what is the purpose of the PYP exhibition? Well, it's an in-depth collaborative inquiry that has an emphasis on independence. Students are given a lot of time to research and to wrestle with the problems that they are facing. However, they also have to work with many other people, and in that way they have support. So they're working with peers, they're working with teachers, they're working with mentors, they're working with parents and guardians. However, despite them having quite a strong support system, it is on them to do the things that they need to do to be successful. They are exploring multiple perspectives, trying to be open-minded about the issues that they're exploring, and they're hopefully using everything that they've learned from previous years to help them to be successful in this. In terms of assessment, we are using a lot of observation, gathering a lot of evidence, and seeing how students' understanding of their chosen issue and their expression of the process is growing throughout. We are very, very interested in the action that the students take and how they manifest their learning into the real world. And this whole process really just unites students, teachers, and parents and the whole community around this learning process. And it's something that is so fun to celebrate once all is said and done. Some essential features of the exhibition that you might see is you might see all the transdisciplinary learning themes in one student's topic. So they might be thinking about how we express ourselves and at the same time talking about where we are in place and time. They might be looking at how the world works and also talking about how we organize ourselves. So there might be one focus, however, we don't limit the students to one central transdisciplinary theme. We will allow them to jump between them when the situation is right. Students are exploring their personal interests, and this means that it's mostly student-driven and student-led. They have a lot of ownership in what they are doing, and we are there to support them. The students are hopefully demonstrating the IB learner profile, using their communicating skills, being principled, being thinkers, and they're really trying to make a difference and use all of these dispositions that we've hopefully taken steps to program into them over the years. They're constantly getting feedback and reflecting over what they've done and making those small little iterations to improve. And they, as I said before, there's an emphasis on action. They're taking action, bringing their learning into the real world rather than just writing it down on a piece of paper and then leaving it there and moving on with their lives. And as you can see around the periphery here, students are using all the ATL skills. Thinking, self-management, social communication, and research skills are all there every single day. So what makes the exhibition different? Well, the thing that's probably on the surface and that people see a lot is that a lot of schools let the students have flexible timetabling with an extended time frame. Instead of having blocked out lessons throughout the day, the timetable could be just dissolved, and students work through a series of tasks throughout the day that are all connected to the exhibition, just like adults would in the real world. We don't have specific time blocks working on math or science or whatever. We work on a problem and we do all the things that are necessary, whether that's to do with literacy or math or science or whatever. We do all those things in a transdisciplinary way so that we solve the problem. Then evidence of learning throughout the process is very, very important. We are really putting a high emphasis on where the students are getting their information from, and students will be recording their information in some kind of journal or maybe in a website or something. The students have personal responsibility in this. Instead of the teacher being in charge of the whole process, the students are the ones, the onus is on them to take accountability and to drive their own success. The teacher here, therefore, is a facilitator and an observer. We are there to see what the students are doing and recognize when a student needs help and how they might be directed towards a place where they can once again take the reins and then be independent. We are not an instructional leader. We will not stand up there and tell the students exactly what to do. We will be giving them a process, and then we will be asking them to go on their own learning journey using that process. And this hopefully empowers students. At the end of this process, it's the goal that they realize that students are capable of doing far more by themselves than they originally thought. And this is the Inquiry Swimming Pool by Trevor Mackenzie. And I really love this image because it explains the last slide in a very visual way. And so if you think about it, the exhibition probably ends up being on the right-hand side of that swimming pool. Maybe throughout the year, students have moved from structured inquiry to controlled inquiry and maybe dabbled a little bit with guided inquiry, but the exhibition is really trying to get students to move from controlled through a guided inquiry and into perhaps a free inquiry. And this really has a major impact on the motivation and the ownership and that the students have over this whole process. And so that's where we are. The teachers not in the pool, the teachers on the outside, maybe giving instructions, or on the outside just observing to make sure that everything is going okay. And then monitoring the exhibition and assessing. So this is a quote that comes from guiding documents straight from the IB, and they say that assessment of the exhibition takes place within the school. It is ongoing throughout the whole process of the exhibition. The IB seeks to ensure the integrity of the PYP without formally monitoring internal assessment and conducting external examinations like they do in the MYP and the DP. Schools should therefore record the exhibition appropriately, for example, through individual student journals, teacher anecdotal records, student work and performance, self, peer, teacher, mentor, parent feedback, and a permanent record of the exhibition planners. And so that might look like a student website where they keep everything in their records, links to all the stuff that they've done, or a PYPX journal where they keep notes of everything that they've done. Students might be asked to self-reflect using something like the solo taxonomy over here, where they look at the depth of their understanding of the topic. What are the various roles of the stakeholders within the PYP exhibition? Starting with the students, as I said before, they will start by identifying their interest or issue that they want to dive into. Once they're done with that, they will then create their own guiding statements for their inquiry. So this would be the central idea, which is one sentence that broadly defines what they'll be looking through. And then they do their lines of inquiry, which will divide that central idea into 3 more statements that are a little bit more specific. They'll then plan steps that they need to take so that they can start their open-ended inquiry where they dive into their research. They will need to be demonstrating the core elements of the PYP. That means perhaps using the ATL skills, showing off how they have internalized the IB learner profile, and then taking action, reflecting, and presenting at the end of the entire experience. So what about the teachers? Teachers, as I said before, are there to facilitate and guide the exhibition process. They are there to support, and they are there to help the students plan collaboratively with everybody involved. They act as mentors, so perhaps another teacher from a different class might come in to help the students and give them some expert knowledge, maybe help them to access some resources as well. One of the main things that teachers are concerned with in this process is academic honesty. So really helping the students to find resources that they can trust, and helping them to ask questions so that they themselves can become proficient at finding reputable resources and making sure that they are documenting the pathways of learning that they have found. And this whole process is really aimed to empower students, as I've said before. We're wanting this process to be something that is a positive experience for students that they can take into their lives and that can be used as an example of them doing something that is hard, but also fun. And so we celebrate the process with the students and really try and make it into a positive experience. And finally, what about parents or guardians? What can you do at home? Well, if you're watching this video, you already are doing the first one over there, which is try to have an understanding of the purpose and requirements of the exhibition. Supporting and encouraging the students, talking with them is absolutely invaluable, and it will help them so much just to know that they are not alone in this process. Helping them to access resources just like teachers, or giving them expert subject knowledge. You have more experience than them in this world, and so you can help them out with these things. Now, just be careful. You will be acting as a mentor, but not a driver of this process. We are there around the students, the teachers and the parents and community are around the students to be support mechanisms for them. We are not there to do the project for them. The product at the very end is not the most important thing. It's the process that the students are going through. And so it might be quite difficult for some parents to take a step back if they think that their child is not following a step that the parent thinks that they might take in that situation. Remember, the students need to be, their ownership needs to be respected. And so sometimes that means that they will have to go down a pathway that leads to an outcome that might not be favorable, but that's a part of the learning process. So we're guiding them, we're talking to them, we're giving them resources, we're giving them our advice, but we are stepping back and letting them make the decisions. Once again, we can give them kind, specific, and helpful feedback throughout the process, but we are not actively taking action for the students. We may facilitate that and help them and guide them through it, but we are not taking that journey away from them. And finally, again, as I said before, the most important thing is to celebrate with the students. No matter what the outcome is, they have gone through a very, very tough thing, and they will deserve to be praised and celebrated for all their efforts. So thank you very much for joining us today. Your support is absolutely crucial for the success of the students, and this whole process is really much more rich with everybody's involvement. It is meant to be a way of bringing the community together, and so we really look forward to this time every single year. I wanted to end with this quote as well, just to drive the point home that, remember, the focus is on the process and not the outcome. This whole experience is one that can be very, very powerful for students, and so we need to make sure that we let this experience be theirs and we respect that. So thank you very much once again. I hope this has been helpful. Have a fantastic day.